Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer build guide in Baldur's Gate 3 using the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer subclass mod made by Havsglimt. Now this is a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons subclass, and it fits perfectly within Baldur's Gate 3 because one of the origins, if you select this class, is that you got a Mind Flayer tadpole and it didn't turn you into a Mind Flayer, so works perfectly here, and that's where you can, I guess, assume you got the powers from, fitting perfectly for roleplay. Now, we do come with some unique spells and cantrips here. So you get the Mind Sliver cantrip. This is also in Mistress Spells in the 5e spells mod. However, they recreated the spell so that you can use this without requiring the other mods. And I think that's incredible. So shout out to the Havsglimt for that. We also get the Arms of Hadar spell and the Dissonant Whisper. So you get the Psionic spell selection. So every level 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 odd levels, you get an additional spell. And once you hit level 6, you can actually use your sorcery points to cast these. And whenever you cast them as a sorcery point, they actually can ignore if you're silenced, which is really cool. Also, you get the Illithid Hunger, which is similar to the Great Old One Warlock's ability. Whenever you get a critical hit against a creature, that creature and any nearby must make a wisdom saving throw or become frightened until the end of their next turn. Very effective. Now, what we'll be choosing for cantrips, I would recommend grabbing Bone Chill, Mage Hand. Firebolt's nice if you have anything you like to explode. And then if you need to get away, Shocking Grasp can be a good one. Ray of Frost is also nice. Minor Illusion to group enemies together, or friends if you're the face of the party. I want to go with Shocking Grasp because it's nice to have that to get away. Now, for our spells here, I would recommend grabbing Shield and Magic Missile. For a guaranteed hit spell, this is really useful. And if you need to break someone's concentration, and Shield is obviously just a very nice spell. So we'll have both of those there. And for our ability scores, we're going to spec around. You can go a few different ways. So we want to have at least 16 charisma, that's the given, and then 16 dexterity or 16 constitution. You can swap either of these out if you prefer having higher health or having higher armor class and initiative. I think that the dexterity route is a little bit better myself, especially early game when initiative is super useful. This mod will also be for level 20 as well. So we're starting here now, level 2, getting ourselves the meta magics. So we can take ourselves distance spell here, increasing our spell's range, and twinned spell. This will make it so that you can use haste on yourself and another team member, and it'll only cost you 1 concentration and 1 spell slot, which is amazing. For our next level spell, Chromatic Orb is nice. Mage Armor is good if you need some extra survivability, and the Thunderwave spell is also nice for the pushback. So you can take which one of these 3 you prefer. I think Thunderwave provides a lot more utility, so I like that just for the big pushback, especially early game. It's nice to be able to hit multiple targets. At level 3, we get more Psionic spells with Calm Motions. This spell being really useful in the Murkon fight in Act 1, so definitely bring this to help out. And also Detect Thoughts, which is always a nice spell and it fits perfectly thematically. We also get level 2 spells, and there's things like Scorching Ray, Misty Step, Hold Person, and Shadow Blade that are very nice to have. When we go with Scorching Ray, it gives us a serious damage option early on in the game, so we'll take that. And for the meta magic, I think it's best to take Quicken Spell. It's Quicken Spell. Bonus action spells, well, there's a lot to love there. Level 4 gives us another cantrip choice. Again, we can take whatever elemental damage type you're missing or minor illusion because it can group enemies together, and that's really useful outside of combat to start combat. Now, also Hold Person, really, really good, so we'll take that, but Misty Step can also be good for the survivability aspect. So if you find you're having a hard time keeping alive, Misty Step might be the better option. And for our level 4 feat, I would recommend taking up our Charisma or taking Alert for the +5 to initiative, although I think that the Charisma is much better for better spell casting. At level 5, we get Hunger of Hadar. So this is a great spell to have and hold our concentration on. And we also get the Fear spell, another concentration, but it's great because it makes enemies drop their weapons and become fearful so they'll stay in place. We also get access to level 3 spells with things like Counterspell, Lightning Bolt, and Fireball being top priority. But also Haste is really nice because you can haste yourself and twin it to another target, which is extremely useful. Be mindful though, if you break your haste, you do lose your next turn, and whoever else has haste on them will too. So that could be an honor mode end runner, just heads up on that. But Lightning Bolt, Fireball, and Counterspell are all safe choices. Some people really like Fireball, just due to the large area of effect that it brings, so we'll go with that. I think it's nice to have any of those spells. But Hunger of Hadar and then Fireball is a nice combo. Level 6 gives us our Psionic Sorcery, allowing us to spell cast, and you can also cast these if you're silenced. In addition to this, we also get Psychic Defenses. You gain resistance to psychic damage, which is huge because that's what Mind Flayers typically do, and that's probably why this class didn't end up making it into the base game. And you get advantage against being charmed and frightened, so a direct counter to Mind Flayers, perfect, without being overpowered. Now we'll take Lightning Bolt, Counterspell, or Haste for our next spell. Haste is difficult in honor mode, again, due to losing concentration being so deadly. You can remove one of your previous level spells though and take it. At level 7 we get the Sonic Sorcery too, so that allows us to do different spells. It has to replace it every time that we level up to allow us to cast things like our new Evert's Black Tentacles and the Summon Beholderkin, which can basically a mini spectator can cast Eye Ray. It has 40 health and increases each level of spell above the 4th level, so you can upcast it and get extra health out of it. Now we also get level 4 spells here, Confusion and Ice Storm being great for just the crowd control purposes they bring. I really do enjoy Ice Storm because making a slippery surface is nice. Sleet Storm is also good because it can stop concentration, so one of these two, but Ice Storm is just a little easier because it also does damage. And at our next level here, we can take Confusion if you want. It does fit pretty well thematically with this. Lightning Bolt being another really good option though, so in a straight line, you can get a lot of extra enemies hit. And Haste, again, always a good option, but we want to have Counterspell first. And at this point, we'll take our Charisma up to 20, or take the Alert feat, as I previously mentioned. It's not a bad feat to ever take. Level 9, we get ourselves the subclass feature Psionic Sorcery 3, allowing us to now cast these as our sorcery points with Dominate Person and Telekinesis. This gives us a lot of spells, and that's one of the biggest downsides to the Sorcerer is they do not get as many spells as like a Wizard does. Next level, we'll take Cone of Cold, really awesome spell. Huge area of effect. And at level 10, we get to choose another Meta Magic and another cantrip. So as we can go the Acid Splash there. For our next level spell, Hold Monster is extremely effective. Although you also can go back and take Wall of Fire, Confusion, or again, Haste if you didn't take it previously. Or I guess we'll even take Hold Person there, because we didn't take that previously. Hold Person is extremely effective, especially because Scorching Rays will deal extra damage, or critical hit damage against the target. And we can take a Extended Spell or Careful Spell. We already basically got Subtle Spell built in if we use our sorcery points to cast it. Level 11 gives us the Revelations in Flesh. So this gives us 3 different benefits here, which I'll show off. And we also get our level 11 spells. So Chain Lightning being one of the highest priority spells here, just because it's huge destruction. And for the Revelations in Flesh, we get the Aberrant Scrutiny, which gives us Dark Vision up to 32 meters, and you can see invisible targets 18 meters away. There's also the Aberrant Slithering, so you become slimy and pliable, allowing you to move through small openings, evade attempts to throw or shove you. You can spend 2 meters of movement speed to escape from restraints or grapples. Ensnaring Strike. And then the Aberrant Flight, you can magically transform your body, gaining flying speed of 9 meters and the ability to hover, ignoring difficult surfaces and the effects, or difficult terrain and surfaces. So good movement there, ability to see in darkness or slip away. At level 12 here, we will go ahead with taking another leveled spell. Circle of Death can fit thematically here. Also, Globe of Invulnerability is probably the best spell on this list, so you can go with that too, because it can just make everyone immune to damage. We can also go with the Alert feat at this point to give us that +5 to initiative, which basically means we'll always be going first. And at level 13, we get to choose another choice in spell here. And at this point, we can go back to previous levels and take things that we didn't take because there's no higher level spells here. We just continue to keep stacking up our sorcery points, which is nice to have because we can also spell cast with them. So you can see here, we continue to get those. Level 15 gives us the Warping Implosion, a 3d10 force damage. Teleport yourself to an unoccupied space while creating a space warping anomaly to appear in the space that you left, dealing 3 to 30 force damage to each creature within 9 meters and pulling them 3 meters towards it. So huge explosion, force damage, one of the best damage types in the game. And with that, we guess we could take Disintegrate. It actually probably fits thematically here pretty well. Level 16, another sorcery point and another feat. We can go with the Spell Sniper here, which will give us increased critical hit chance by 1. And then we can also take Eldritch Blast as our cantrip. So that's a nice option there if you wanted to increase your critical hit chance with spells. And that's nice to have. We also get ourselves another spell once we hit level 17 here. You could go back and take some of the previous spells here if you've omitted them from being taken. But Hold Monster is one of the best. Then we can also take either Heightened Spell or Extended Spell, as we don't need Subtle Spell. Level 18 here gives us another sorcery point, which is nice to have. And then for our feat at level 19, there's a few really good options. We could take the Tough feat because it gives 2 health points for each level, so that's 40 extra health, giving us a lot to work with. Warcaster, if you don't have the Constitution amulet, will give you advantage on saving throws to hold your concentration. Very good to have. And we could also go ahead and take different armor proficiencies if you're preferred, and ability score improvement to our dexterity, which will give us better initiative and armor class. Or we can go ahead here with taking something like, again, the Tough feat for the extra health. It's your choice between survivability or initiative and overall armor class with the dexterity improvement. So between those two would be the best. And finally, at level 20, we get a Sorceress Restoration, so you can regain 4 expended sorcery points whenever you finish a short rest. Huge. 1 extra sorcery point, and level 7 spell slots, which is actually like level 9. So this is what it ends up looking like in terms of gear, and then I'll show off combat as well. You can see there, we got a level, I guess level 8 spell slot. So early game, the best armor would be the Potent Robe. Cantrips will get your Charisma modifier added to them, and you get temporary health equal to your Charisma modifier each turn, plus 1 armor class. You do want to take Mage armor if you're going to be using light armor, or if you're going to be using clothing. Another option is the Penumbral armor. You do have light armor proficiency, so this can be good if you need an extra bonus to your stealth for some reason. We can also go with the Robes of Supreme Defenses to increase our overall armor class, and then the best would probably likely be the Robe of the Weave, and this gives a plus bonus to spell save DC, and you get healing whenever you succeed on spells, and this gives 21 armor class. We could get that up to a 24 if we use Mage armor, but I think this is one of the few builds that actually reckons the use of the Heldesk armor for the 21 armor class. It feels thematic, and there's even the Aberrant Mind die that we can use on the outfits here to give them a unique appearance. So yeah, I like that. I've also used the Faerun Colors Asmodeus here, or die as well on here, but this is one build where I feel like this fits pretty well. Aberrant Devils, they kind of different, but go together well. And it's just makes up for the lack of armor class that we'd otherwise have. As, you don't have Mage armor, it makes things complicated. The Pyro Quickness Hat, this gives us an extra bonus action, which is huge because we have 20 sorcery points, so we may as well be using Quicken Spell often. So this can actually create a lot of fun, because if you have at least, if you got like 1 spell, you may as well use this to give yourself an extra bonus action spell. So you can cast 3 spells per turn, 4 if you have haste. Very effective. Because of the Cloak Protection, the Deathstalker Mantle also works very well here. The Gloves of the Beleaguered Skies for thunder, lightning, and radiant damage, getting reverberation on the target. That's nice, but we can also go with something like the Sparkle Hands for lightning charges. Winter's Clutches if you prefer cold damage, because you imply crusted with frost. Early game, the Gloves of Dexterity will give you a better armor class, so this can be good for survivability in the early game. And then the Gemini Gloves are probably one of the best too, because whenever you target someone with a cantrip, you can target another target as well. And if you really want to boost up your armor class, you can use the Wondrous Gloves for increased armor class, so that's another choice if you want to bump your REC up to 28, but those are best used on a Bard. And then the Evasive Shoes will give you increased armor class. However, we can stack conditions really easily, so the Boots of Storm and Clamor can work very well as well, so we can stack Reverberation with them. I'd recommend the Ring of Mental Inhibition, so if a target fails a saving throw against one of your spells, which is very often this will happen, it gives you them mental fatigue, which minuses their mental saves by 2, and this will stack up, meaning you're going to do a ton of extra damage to them because your spells will always land. We also got the Ring of Protection, although you can also swap this out for like Crusher's Ring for increased movement speed. You can also use the Coruscation Ring if there's a late source anywhere nearby, like if you have Nyruln or any of those weapons on another target. You can use this to increase the amount of times your team's going to be saved by not getting spells, because this Radiating Orbs gives -2 attack rolls, so this can work very well. We're kind of a debuffer in this way. And the Amulet of Greater Health, you can use also any of the amulets that give you extra spell slots, or the one that gives you another magic missile. I also have the Hellrider Lambo, +3 to initiative is always a nice thing to have in the offhand. We also have the Staff of Spell Power. Honestly, for any caster, it's either this or Marka Heshker. And the thing is, we can also take a single level dip in the Wizard to grab ourselves the elemental spells and prepare those. It's another nice combination if you didn't want to take level 20 here. We don't really have any spells that we need to precast before we go into combat, so with this we can just put on the Marka Heshker here. And then once we have Marka Heshker, I'd recommend taking Kreska's Favor here to give ourselves extra damage, and either going with the Frost of the Dark Winter. The Bolts of Doom will give us lightning charges, so you can go with that, but that's that for gear. Obviously the best available. This is a mod build, so I typically go with some stronger gear, and I don't normally like to include the Heldesk armor, but I feel like it fits here. Now I am using the Blood Moon mod to make this a bit more thematic, but we do have this Warping Implosion here, which is really nice. We could have also precasted our Aberrant Revelations in Flesh, but none of these really matter too much. I guess the Aberrant Slithering would be nice. But we have the Warping Implosion, so we can use this to basically target ourselves and then target somewhere that we want to warp to. If there's any place where we can, you know, create an explosion there, see it pulls everyone in. It'll also pull in your team members, so just be mindful of that. But this can be a good way to set up into a different location. And then you can use 5 sorcery points to recast this again as a different way to get around and do things with. So we want to get that extra bonus action, so we're going to drop a fire spell here, and we typically can find a way to hit multiple targets with a fireball. So that's what we want to do. Sometimes you do have to play around with moving it in a certain way, but we can also upcast this for additional damage. And there we go. We can hit all these targets here. So boom, that was good. Extra bonus action. We're burning, however, and that's fine because it's going to allow us to deal a little extra damage. There's a lot of enemies back there, so we're going to use our quicken spell here. So we can quicken a spell, and it even lets you use a quicken chain lightning from the Mark Hesker staff. So we'll use this to take out one of the targets way down there, and we'll just go with a boom. That was enough to destroy 3 of them with a ton of extra damage. So yeah, that worked really well. And since we have an extra bonus action, who's to stop us from doing another quicken spell? So with this final spell, we can set up our crowd control now and then drop down like a Hunger of Hadar here, as that's one of the spells that we do get. So boom, we'll lay that down, and that was a pretty successful turn. So yeah, and we also have 2 free casts from our free cast Illithid ability and the Arcane Battery. So got a lot. We also dropped Mental Fatigue on a lot of these targets, so that actually applies from the Warping Implosion from our ring as well. So really nice. And then Hunger of Hadar is going to create difficult terrain and damage targets over time. Really nice because it also gives them disadvantage in their attack rolls. And on our next turn, this is exactly what I think whenever I'm talking about positioning with spells. So Lightning Bolt here, we can actually end up hitting 4 targets there, and we'll upcast it. Or if you got the free cast, you can also give it a free cast all the way up. And there's a target way off in the distance. We might get all of them there. Boom. Yeah, that was pretty good. So that cooked every single one of them. And then there's a bunch of them hanging out in Hunger of Hadar there, which is not always the wisest decision, but we do have our bonus action ability. So we can even, I forgot to summon in our Beholderkin, but I'll do that after we cast a Scorching Ray here to take out this target, who's now getting hit with advantage. Boom. Extra bonus action. That gives us the ability to now summon in our Beholderkin. And we can also upcast the Beholderkin as well. So if you use that, and then the free cast ability as well to give ourselves that free one, we can go with a upcasted version of it, and boom, there is our Beholderkin. Doesn't have the greatest initiative, but it does have the Eye Ray doing psychic damage, so a little bit of extra damage. It's always nice, kind of similar to the Shadow Magic Sorcerer getting the dog. And we also get another quicken spell, so this is nice. So we could probably end this right now with a fireball, but I'm just going to go with another Scorching Ray here, and we can always upcast that for a little extra damage if there's a target like this that's high priority, and we're attacking with advantage. So let's say, yeah, there's likely one of those going to be a critical hit there just because of the advantage. And they just continually keep taking damage and walk slowly through this while attacking without any extra benefits. So yeah, Hunger of Hadar is great crowd control if you can get that up on the ground. So again, we have that Warping Implosion if we need to move from one location to another. So boom, we can go there. Unfortunately, hit our Beholder as well. But yeah, that can pull enemies in, and it drops the reverberation, it drops the mental fatigue on them. So it's really good. And then we'll go with a Scorching Ray here on this target to get ourselves that extra bonus action. You pretty much always want to be rolling if you can, roll a fire spell per turn, because that extra quicken spell gives a huge DPS buff. So we can only actually do one of these per turn, but one's all we need. We have 2 concentration against the Everett Black Tentacles or the Hunger of Hadar are 2 options there. So some pretty damaging spells. But we also got the good old classics from the Sorcerer spell list, like Cone of Cold there, which will likely take her out there. Perfect. So that is the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is now available on console, so let me know which one of Havsglimt's mods you want to see covered next. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Have yourself a great day. We'll see you all in the next video.